What is going on, everyone? It is your boy Thrill Shocker, the 96 Hedgehog here, and we are here for our first of the many videos I just promised about the tier listing and stuff. We are here for our first tier list, and we want to give a massive shout out to my buddies John Jr. and OG Albina. A link to their tier list on this video will be in the comment section, in the description down below. But if you guys are excited for this tier list video, which is gonna be a pretty interesting one because we're gonna be ranking the items in Pokemon, which is going to be very interesting and stuff like that. If you guys are excited, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to join the Thrill Crew of the Thriller Crew, because we are now known as Thriller 96 on this channel. So I'm very much excited for the first video being a tier list video, like I promised, and also under the new official name change, which we're going back to the OG, baby. Super hyped and ready for this, and let's talk about it. So basically, we're gonna be ranking about just about every single item in the game. Now, I'm gonna probably start from the bottom to rank up certain items, and then we're gonna go ahead and get rid of, because I'm gonna count all of like the super effective berries and stuff like that in like one, and I'm not gonna rank all of them because it's just I will kind of point out a few of them in different categories, though, because they do technically some different things. So, with that being said, let's talk about it. We have the category Just Bad. Basically, Just Bad is an item that is useless and irrelevant unless you have for a specific reason. Exists. It's an item that's okay, but it's just there. It's not great. It's not spectacular. All right, it's one of those items that is kind of a little bit of a slept on item. It's pretty good, unique, but it's just not going to be seen a lot. Top tier, definitely items you see more times out of not that, make a ton of sense to show up. There, and it's great. And then must use, these are items that are so important in draft, and I think are some of the best items to ever have in the draft league scene. So, with that being said, let's talk about it. We first have the ability shield, and I'm not going to lie. At first, I probably would put this just in the exist category, but I actually saw some great usage from this, and I've seen great players use this item actually. So I'm actually gonna put the ability shield in the all right category. I don't think this is a really bad item. Now I do think this is an item that you very rarely seen, but I've seen people like KJ use this against my good friend John when John had to face off against KJ's Armor Rouge, and Flashfire was going to be immune because the Ogerpon that John had was Heart Flame, so it was the fire one. So he was going to go through it. But when KJ used Ability Shield on the Armor Rouge, it still made it so the fire type move could not hit Ogerpon. It can be absorbed by Ogerpon, which that was just top tier prep from KJ, which was amazing. And I've actually run Ability Shield myself to stop a skill swapped floor just because I want to make sure I didn't copy my underwear on my Dondozo. So I actually think this is an okay ability. Absorb Bulb, it's bad. The Dialga items, they're not there. I just see a Cellberry, Asper Berry. I forgot whatever berry this is. Bright Powder, you're never gonna be allowed to use that. Adrenaline Orb. This is a really weird one because it has such a niche role, but it's actually a very viable item. I think I'm perfectly fine putting it in the all right category. Now, it's just probably gonna be like the bottom tier of all right for me, if not the top tier of exist. Like the really cool thing about this is that I've seen cool niche opportunities with this. With having this against something like, say, a Landorus Therian team, or a Pokemon that always runs intimidating in every single matchup, like Crocodile or defensive Crookshanks. Excuse me. I really think Adrenaline has that specific ability towards that. And also, if you look at some hidden threats, I've actually seen a opportunity where Guard Dog, which I think raises the attack of Okidoki, and its attack does not get dropped, I think. And also it doesn't get its attack, like if it gets intimidated, its attack raises, I think. And then its speed goes up by 1 instead of getting lowered or something like that. I don't know, which is really really cool. It's a really cool interaction with that, And it has, oh, again, another of these niches where, again, any type of stat dropping from things like Intimidate or things, other stats possibly, and getting that Adrenaline or Speed buff is very, very, very good. And I do think Adrenaline is one of those kind of sleeper items that I think a lot of people don't remember and pay attention. It's one of those things that kind of happens. Air balloon, for me personally, this item just exists. I don't think this item is really all that great, in my opinion. It's very, very niche situated, and I overall am just not the biggest fan. I don't really like this item. I don't think it's great, and it's kind of an item that I don't really care for. Cherry berry, it's just bad. Okay, if my computer can stop doing it, it has its little niches here. Destiny Knot, again, another one of those things that's kind of bad. The Razor Fangs as well. Uh, Talking up now here, Assault Vest. This is definitely a top tier item. I have definitely, every once in a while, have run Assault Vest in my life. I know a lot of people say Assault Vest is probably much more of like those S tier best items in the game type of thing. But for me personally, I don't think Assault Vest makes it like a must have type of thing for me personally, because I haven't really ran Assault Vested a ton of times. I have definitely run my fair shares of running on stuff like my Annihilates, obviously Gooshies, oh, excuse me, and a few other Pokemon. But I feel like Assault Vest is one of those definitely good filler items if you really need it for your team. If you especially want to go for four attacks offensive Pokemon that just wants to be able to take hits, Assault Vest is really great. I do think it's one of the best items in the game to really have on teams, but it's gonna be a little hard to run. Now I believe let me look at these items to see make sure I'm kind of getting these right. And it looks like okay, I believe this is the black belt. I'm gonna actually put the black belt in exist because I do think some people like to. Actually, no, this technically consists this is considered of things like black glasses and stuff like that. Um, well, I'll probably put expert belt. I'll put in the alright one. It's pretty solid. It pretty does really well for what you want to do with it and stuff like that. And it's just an overall niche item. It's nothing like too crazy, too broken, type of stuff like that. It's also that one kind of thing if you really want to run without running the life orb, if you know you can be able to get KOs with stuff like that. Right. So we're getting to a couple of items here. First, binding band. It's only good for memes and stuff like that. So the resistance berries. 100% must use. Every single resistant berry is going to be 100% on this must use list. Now, there's going to be a few berries, obviously, that we're doing that's different, and there's going to be a few resist berries that do specific things. So we'll talk about those when we get to them. But I think when you look at the staples, Chople, Colbur, Chardy, Shuka, Wakan, all these berries that resist the stab move that you want to take and get the KO back on is such a must needed item for any team out there. I love resist berries. I was once a berry farmer. When I came to Draft League, I would just use berries a decent chunk of the time. And berries are just the key to draft sometimes, man. They are some of the best items to ever use in the Draft League scene. I am a massive fan of these. I don't run all that much nowadays, but they are definitely 100% a must have, if not must use item that you must do in the draft league scene because it makes so many ways to be able to lure in those Pokemon that you need to hit with and then bam, knock them out on that turn and then basically be able to win with potential sweepers you have in the back. And it's just awesome. Big Root, it just exists. I don't think it's bad. It actually has some niche roles. All right. Black Sludge, I'm gonna say it's all right. It's not really a top tier item because it's only limited to poison types. But I do think if you factor in Terra, this thing can almost just go into the exist tier, just because it's one of those items that if you Terra and your poison type's no longer a poison type, you end up crippling yourself, and that does kind of make it waste a Terra slot if you're gonna be purposely bringing that, and then you unless you're tricking it or flinging it or something. But excuse me. It's one of those items that it's kind of niche for what it does, but it's still a decently good recovery item, which I think is really, really nice. Blunder Policy. I actually think this is a pretty alright item. I don't think it's crazy good. I don't think it's great. I think it has a very niche role. I have used Blunder Policy before, and I've actually made it pop off, actually. Just recently, I tried to use Ball Z Darkrai, but no, the game didn't want to go that way, and I couldn't use it. But I do think Blunderbossly has a good role on Teacher Niche. Do I think this item's great? No. But do I think this item's not is bad? No. I think this item is just okay. It's nothing too crazy, nothing too broken, but it's one of those kind of like cool little scenario type things if you can picture it just right for what you wanted. Boost your energy. I think this is 100% a top tier item. If this item could be used by so many Pokemon, it 100% would be a must use, but it's definitely top tier. Obviously, with Paradox Pokemon, it's really a double edged sword with this, right? You can either get your Mon in, get the booster off, either set up to win or just be able to get it and just win. But you also run the risk of getting it in, popping your booster, but then having to force switch out, getting rid of your booster, and then being kind of forced to have to play without your booster, and then having a wasted item gone just like that. So it's one of those double-edged sword items that you have to be very careful in playing with. I personally love booster energy. It is such a good item. It has again an only specific role with certain types of Pokemon in the draft league scene, but I love booster. I think it's one of the best items that was introduced in this generation, and I think it's one of the best items all the time we have in Pokemon. All right, so I'm going to use the charcoal to represent all of the power boosting. So things like black glasses, the black bell, magnet, mystic water, all that stuff is going to be put onto the charcoal essentially. And I actually think these are pretty alright. I wouldn't say they're top tier. I think what prevents them from being top tier for me personally is that, again, it is the one specific stab you're going for, but if the damage output is not as much as you would think it would be. Like, if you're using your regular ability mons, I do think it has almost that top tier role. But since most of the starter Pokemon and stuff that will probably maybe use these items, they only use the new hidden ability. Don't try to use their regular abilities because their regular abilities are kind of garbage. If you want that situation, then they're not. But I do think these items though are very good in the draft league scene, and they're very fun to use. I do think they're pretty good items to have in for teams, and I definitely don't think they're the worst thing. Like you guys have seen me use like Magnet on Vikavolt a lot, just because Vikavolt's pretty good with a Magnet. It's really strong, it's really hard hitting, and it's overall really great. Chesto Berry. I actually think this is a pretty cool item. I actually think it's all right. It definitely fits a lot of matchups for a lot of teams that run Resto Chesto. You guys have seen me done, I think, Resto Chesto a couple of times before. It's definitely one of those sleeper items. I think a lot of people see what I did there. I'm on fire today, folks. I'll tip your waitresses. But Chesto, I think, actually has a lot of cool niche abilities, which I think is really nice towards it. And I think it's also a really good item. It's nothing too crazy, it's nothing too broken, but it's one of those nice little kind of like little hidden things you can put into a matchup if the people aren't careful, and really helps you win. Chillon Berry. I'm gonna do this as a different one because this is on any Pokemon, and then you take a resisted normal type of hit. I actually think this is a pretty alright berry to use. As someone that has done Shilon Berry before, and has actually seen Shilon Berry used against him before, it's definitely one of those surprise berries. It's one of those berries that if you need a mon that can take a +6 hit from an extreme speed Linoon and then kill it back knowing you can, it's really, really great. I don't think it's one of the broken berries. Again, this is one of those like what probably placed towards the bottom of all right, but it's a phenomenal item. It has its very good niche role, and it's a very, very, very good item in the draft league scene. I'm very much excited that it's back, and that it's one of those cool little niche items that doesn't get seen a lot. Now, I do think this item does kind of fall off now because a decent amount of the E-Speed users we have, you don't really run Shieldon Berry for them anymore, so it's gonna be really hard to really put that up there anywhere more than it needs to be. All right, must use. You already know all these have to go in there. Now I know some of my friends have kind of ranked these separately because depending on what you see it. But if you're not running choice items, man, what's wrong with you? Choice items are the best outbreak of power in both physical, special, and speed. Now, I will say there are one drawback to each of these items. You are choice locked, you are stun locked, you are forced to click this one move with also having this boost to attack, special attack, or being forced to hit hard with the speed buff that you have. That's the one drawback to these items is that you are locked in. But the also being the one drawback, there's also one positive in that you are either faster than life itself or you are hitting like a mad truck. And the switches in only one time and then basically dies on trying to be another switch in. I think choice items are probably the best items of Pokemon. They're easily the most iconic items in the game because 9 times out of not 10 times out of 10, you will always see a choice item in every single match, no matter what. And I absolutely love these items. They are always the go-to items for everybody, and I'm very much looking forward to having these items staying in the game. Clear Amulet. This might be a little bit of a hot take here, but I think it's kind of a top tier item. You guys have seen me use Clear Amulet before, and it has come in the clutch so many times. Shoutouts to JJDL Season 1 with my Baxcalibur with Clear Amulet stopping both a parting shot and the Intimidate from a Landorus team. That is it, how good this item can be. Now, this would probably go to the very bottom of top tier, if not the top end of all right. But this item does have a specific niche, but it's very, very good. It stops any drops from happening on your field. It stops moves from doing any drops inside of the field. It stops Intimidate, which is one of the best abilities that is run in the singles format. I think Clear Amulet is one of those hidden gem items that is very, very, very good, and I think is a very good item. Real quick, Custap Berry. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm not a Custap lover. I don't know the appeal to this. Like, I get the cool nicheness that it has in that matchup, but I'm not the biggest fan. Also, the Electric Seed. It's okay. They're all right. Enigma Berry. That's kind of cool. These berries, which are basically berries that give you recovery, eh, they exist. They're not terrible. Covert Cloak. I think this could be a top tier item, honestly, because the thing about Covert Cloak, it prevents drops. Like, it prevents drops from Parting Shot, which is really, really big. I think that also shuts down the ability to I think it might. I might be totally wrong, but stopping something like Lumia Crash from a Spatha, stopping things like defense drops from almost guaranteed moves, like just and also preventing Salt Cure from Garganacl hitting you every single turn while you're in. It's one of those things where it has a very niche role in every single match you bring it, and for every time you use it, personally speaking, that niche role can fit on a lot of teams. I think there was at least one time I actually used Covert Cloak because there was a specific reason that I needed it for. So I'm overall think it's a good item. Now, do I think it's the best item that was ever introduced into this meta throughout the entire 9 generations? Oh no, it's probably one of the weakest. But I think the current meta that we have right now is a very sleeper item that I think a lot of people are not taking into consideration when they are using it. So there's that. Floatstone, trash. Next item, the weather rocks. I'm gonna use the damp rock to represent all of them, and I actually think these are pretty all right items in my personal opinion because again, these are the to enable those 8 max turns of either sun, rain, snow, or sand. And for weather teams, this is the generation for weather teams. After the Indigo Disc, I think every single weather is super viable. I do think probably Rain and Sun is still more broken now, but stuff like Sand is probably now the third, if not tied for second best in this generation now. And then Snow is the worst, probably, which it already was. But basically, having these items to just guarantee 8 turns really plays a big difference into some matchups because you might actually see a team that looks great without rain, but looks also phenomenal with rain if it's only those few pieces that you can't counter. So there's times where you have to either guess that there's 8 turns of rain or 4 turns of rain, which I think is a really big part into the draft league scene. I really think these items were a really good introduction into the format. Eject button. Personally speaking, I have never really seen this item used, and I wish my computer would stop messing this up. Um, it's gonna go to exist. It's like an okay one, stuff from this. Same thing with Flame Orb. Again, very specific niche for most times of Pokemon. The Gallon Berry for all these weird berries, and then these Incest are just nothing. Grip Claw, nothing really there. The orbs for some of these Pokemon. like that. Lagging Tail, it's kind of, well, I'll say it exists. It's definitely like worst item in the game. Stuff like that is really good. King's Rock, that's banned from what mostly happens. Kind of going all over the place with these items. Eject Pack. I actually think Eject Pack's a pretty alright item. I wouldn't put it top tier or must use, but I do think it's not a bad item. I know a good couple of my friends, including OG Albina, that say this item is trash and it's bad. I, however, your friendly neighborhood man, Thriller96, say that this item is good. And if you ever hear Aquarius, aka Addison, talk about this item, you listen to her. She is very wise, very smart, and pretty. And if she tells you to use a jetpack, you use it. As someone that used it on a Rose raid in a little while ago, well, not long ago, almost a year or so ago, on a team that he took over. He used an eject packed Rose Raid in a matchup, and he won a game with an eject packed Rose Raid in that team. So I'm just saying, eject pack wins games. So I mean, where's the proof right there? I mean, right there, right? Why would I not listen to Addison? Literally, she's the queen, queen. But anyway, shout out to Addison, she's amazing. But I do think a jetpack has really good roles in some matchups, and I think it's one of those items that really gives you momentum that lets you also hit hard with, which I think is really, really good. Um, I think this is supposed to, oh, this is the focus band. That's a terrible item. Don't ever run focus band. Eviolite. I think this could be a hot take right here. I think this is a top tier item. Now, I think this item provides a lot to some specific Pokemon. Dusclops is one of the best premier users of this item because he is so goddamn big with this item because he is insanely bulky and defensive. Another good now, I would say a decent user of this item is now going to be Duraludon because he's got an evolution. And even some of the lower end Pokemon stuff like Thwacky is pretty decent with this. Things like Girder, one of the most phenomenal abusers of Eviolite in the format as well. And I just overall think this is a very good item. Now, I wouldn't say it's a must use item because that means I'm basically telling you to draft the Violite Pokemon every time. I think this item is very good and it can be run so many times in so many matches. And I overall think it's just a really great item. Focus Sash. I actually think this item's just okay. I'm not really the biggest fan of Focus Sash. I rarely, if you're not even really use this item because I personally think it's bad. The only time you ever saw me use it was that one meme game against Kiwi with my Weavile where I just wanted to guarantee get a setup and just click a button in front of his team. But other than that, I don't think Focus Sash is great. Focus Sash is great for lead sets if you really want to guarantee hazard and stuff like that. But I really don't see the appeal to this item. I really, really don't. All right, heavy duty boots, and to disappoint Owen and probably some other people, I'm gonna put this item just barely in top tier. Now, I have barely ever used heavy duty boots myself, but I do love the appeal of what this item does. Basically, it stops sticky from dropping speed. It stops hazards from wheeling down my opponent. It stops myself from being, worrying about hazard removal every single week. It's one of those really good items that has been stuck onto Pokemon like Moltres and Volcarona, which now gives these Pokemon so much longevity in a matchup, which they would never really originally have if they were under rocks to begin with. So I do think the introduction of this from last generation, from Gen 8, is a very good induction. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm not the biggest fan of this item because I don't see the appeal. I can see why others love this item, and some would say it's a top tier item. But for me, Boots is just not me. I just don't like him. The Iron Ball, that's a very lame item. It's very niche, very in. I don't know what these berries do, so I'm just gonna put them in there. Lychee Berry, it kind of exists. Like, it's not a terrible item. I've seen some people use it before and stuff like that. Now we're gonna get some good items here. I think leftovers is 100% a top tier. If not, it has to be in your must use items. It is one of the good old reliable OG items in the game, man. This is one of those items that you can literally just slap on a Pokemon and just be okay with because leftovers recovery is so massive. And especially on specific Pokemon, it has great defensive viability. Under some instance of like a Rillaboom, which is defensive, it gets the drastic trainer leftovers recovery and leftovers recovery. You get 2 rounds. Plus, if you already get Leech CW, you get 3 rounds of recovery. I think leftovers provide so much to teams that it's very good because you could potentially still live that hit now because of that 12% you got back from leftovers, which I think is really, really nice. So 100% putting this in top tier. Light clay. I actually think a light clay is a pretty alright item. I wish my computer would stop doing. Light clay is pretty alright. It's nothing too crazy, nothing real broken. The orbs, these are just the, one things. I have no idea what you guys are, so we're gonna put you there. Um, Life Orb. This is probably a top tier item. I don't think it's like your must use unless you have Magic Guard or Sheer Force Pokemon. But in terms of what it does do so much for a lot of teams, especially if you don't use those, is that extra strong boost to to basically your physical, your special, and just be able to just hit something insanely hard. I really do like this item. It's an item I kind of definitely run every once in a while, and it's one of those kind of like niche rule moves. But I really enjoy and love this item because it's a very good one. A little excuse me, a little niche, but nothing too crazy. Light bulb, it just exists. It's something for Pikachu. Lumberry, the Lumberry is all right. It's one of those like helium status ones, which is really nice. Don't know what this is. Mental herb just exists. Nothing crazy. Loaded dice. I'm gonna put this in all right. You guys have seen me done loaded dice before, and loaded dice failed me and cost me a game. So I hate it for that reason, but it did kind of give a redemption on another game. I don't know, man. This is one of those weird items that's it's like it's not bad, but it's also not the greatest. Like I felt like it could have been a little bit more useful for me whenever I ran it those few times. But maybe I just need to give it a try in the future with other Pokemon that can take advantage of it. But overall, I don't think it's a terrible item. I think it's one of the newest and coolest items that introduced to this generation. But overall, not the biggest fan. Metronome, it exists. Metal Coat, I think that's what it is. And it exists. It's nothing crazy, nothing too broken. Mirror Herb. This is probably just an alright item. Like, it definitely has really caused the distribution of Shell Smash Sweepers to be very careful what they do. And more importantly, to be scared to even think about setup every single week because now every time you go into a matchup you have to take the 50-50 of either risking the setup knowing they're going to bring one mirror herb pokemon or you risk the opportunity of letting them not have to waste the item while then being a different set but even though you know shell smash can do well into a matchup so definitely gonna be one of those items that has really changed up a bit of the meta, especially for setup sweepers. So overall, I think this item is pretty cool. It's very niche, but it's nothing terrible. Normal gem. This is gonna be interesting here. I actually think normal gem is probably the bottom of all right. For fake out abusers is really good. For unburdened fake out users, this is very good. Like normal gem has been one of those like early gen excuse me, broken items to run because every time you run it on something like, say, Sneasler, for example, fake out normal gem and then have that unburden boost. Like you knew you didn't need setup. You can just go full balls to the wall, breaking with having 3 attacks into a team. Or you can get a KO with the fake out and then get an SD on another turn when you know you can take any one hit from your opponent. I love this item for what it's worth, but it's definitely not a great item. It's definitely niche and it's not fantastic. We're gonna resist all of these berries because they're not. Plates. I think plates are basically the exact same thing essentially for what we have for the item thing. So I will put it at least in there to put some representation. The power herb. I actually think this is an all right item. But now, here's the reason why I think it's all right. It fits a lot of roles for a lot of teams. Dig support is really good from this item, and also unburdened sweepers. Like you guys seen, I have ran unburdened with power herb dig on my Grafia a couple of times. Paid off one time. Other times we got really boned by it. And power herb is also really good for things like solar blade, solar beam, uh Phantom Force, such really good moves that need that one boost turn that you just need to put it in range of something else, either to kill it or to have it be killed by something on the following turn. I overall think this is a very, very good item, but it's definitely niche for what it offers. Now this ought to be an interesting one because we have the what is this one? The protective pads. And honestly, this is a pretty cool item. This is a very item that you can be able to just put on a Pokemon and not be scared of Flame Body, Static, and just never have to be feared by being like, oh my god, I had to click a move and hopefully don't get status by these guys. And I think Protective Pads was a very good introduction into last generation, which I believe it came from. And Protective Pads is very interesting, it's very different, but it's pretty cool. But its signature counterpart, Quick Claw, that's usually banned, by the way. Razor Claw, I think that's what it is pretty banned. The swords and stuff, they're banned. I have no clue what that berry does. Some more right there. But Punching Glove. Punching Glove, honest to God, I think it's a top tier item. Because I'm now looking at some of the things you can do. You have Iron Fist Infernape. You have the Urshifu's, which it seems to be built, even though, in my personal opinion, Surgeon Strike should not be boosted by this because it's not a punching move. But if you tell me this right now, we got Hitmonchan back. Tell me this is not the best, if not only item Hitmonchan ever needs to run in its life. Punching Glove boosted. Iron Fist boosted. This Pokemon literally has nothing but punches to give. Now, I do think this item is also very good on other Pokemon. I think I've seen Palmont with Punching Glove. Very good item for that Pokemon. And again, Punching Glove has that added bonus as well of being a kind of protective pads. Like the fact that it gives a boost to punching type moves, along with also getting stabbed onto things like Iron Fist. But by itself, that boost, but also being like a protect pads at the same time, makes this thing way more broken than protective pads ever could be. But it also kind of makes again the player have to think: is this either Iron Fist boosted? Is this Punching Glove and Iron Fist boosted? Or am I just getting pumped? So one of those things right there. The red card, honestly, yeah, it kind of just exists. Same thing with Ring Target. They just exist. They're nothing crazy. They're nothing spectacular. Shed Shell is, it's an item in Shell Bell. It's bad. Silk Scarf, I kind of talked about that. The Zoom Lens, I think that's what this is. Just exists. I'm gonna go ahead and just get rid of some of these items. The Utility Brother, they just exist. Uh, Snowball, it just exists. Nothing crazy. I think that's probably. Oh, Sticky Barb, that thing exists. I think we got pretty much everything else that we're not going to talk about. So let's just start at the bottom here. Wise Glasses. I think. I think I put them exist. Like, they're not terrible. They're not great. But they do have a little bit of a good roll compression in there for, going for special attackers. It's basically like the equivalent of Muscle Band, essentially at the same point. But it's nothing terrible, just a really good, nice buff to special attackers. Wide lens. This is again another one of those that just exists as well. It's not like it's the world's worst item. Wide lens has saved a lot of Pokemon from being bad. but it's also kind of forced it to be the only Pokemon that are very good. Like, Maushold without this is trash. Maushold with this, broken. Just overall, don't think it's the greatest item out there, and it's nothing too like, oh my god, you know. White Herb, and you already know that's going in the all right category. You already know it's in there. This is one of those like really like slept on items that you kind of sometimes will always forget because it does exist. Like there's Shell Smash users which will appreciate this. There's Intimidate users that get intimidated down by other mons that would love this. And just overall, it's just a fantastic item. I think it has no real bad drawbacks towards it, unless you pop it early, which is again the only drawback I see. But at the same time, I think it's a very great item. I don't think it's really bad. I think it overall has some amazing value to what any team would really want with it. All right, we're almost there. I'm getting really tired now. Weakness policy, and this could be a hot take, but I kind of agree with my boy Owen, and I have to say this is an S tier item. Here's reasons why. You guys have seen me run weakness policy so many times, and just to be honest with you, it's because it has good rolls. It just has good rolls. Like you can't tell me there's a good match though where if I build this thing super defensively, set it up to the position to win, and either get a boost and a weakness policy, or just get the weakness policy in general. This makes any Pokemon a massive threat. It could arguably make Ferret a threat, and that's saying something. So I'm very much excited for this item. It's one of my favorite items to use in draft, and it's one of the best items in draft. So you got that going for you. Up next, there's a few of these here. This down. I think I'm gonna put the terrain extender probably just in the exist one. Like it's not worse or not bad. I'm just gonna ignore these berries. I don't really care about this. Toxic Orb. It's a pretty alright item. I actually would probably prefer this over Flame Orb in the categories just because there's a lot of more better usage out of Toxic Orb than you get Flame Orb. Flame Orb, in my opinion, just gives you guts. It doesn't give you anything like for a Urshining, for example. Toxic Orb's amazing on this Pokemon because you can still run Quick Feet. You get to run Quick Feet, and you can still bluff being Guts, which I think is one of those really kind of slower and cool little niches as well, potentially. But that speed boost with Quick Feet is amazing. Also, with having Flame Orb and Toxic Orb, that helps with Jolteon as well. Get that boost into the speed. Overall, I think it's a really good item. Very niche for what it offers for mods, but it's very fine. There's like, let's move all the items left that are relevant to us up here. I think we're just about done. I think I have these last 5 items. I think that's Salic Berry. We'll put that up here. Yeah, I think that's it after this. So Salic Berry, it exists. It has its roles, its niches, and what it provides for teams. Same thing with safety goggles. I think they just exist personally, man. They're nothing too like great or broken, but they're just kind of okay. Focus energy. Now, this is something that I will be willing to put in the all right category because there's things like Kingdra, there's things like Swords and Sniper sets that are really, really good. Anytime running focus energy with this item, you are basically guaranteed crits 100% of the time, which can kind of be broken under the certain situations you have it at. Ooh, excuse me. But overall, I think it's a very good item for what it can does provide for teams, especially with sniper ability Pokemon. It's really, really good. Now you have next the Rocky Helm. To me, oh man, where do I think it's good? I think I will put it at least in top tier. I do think the option to get that one, like I think it's 1/6 or 1/8, whatever it is, damage off on your opponent, especially if it gets to a point where they're 1 HP, they hit me, and regardless of depending of recoil move, they basically just die because it's Rocky Helmet damage. Like, you would not believe how many passive kills Rocky Helmet does claim from a lot of Pokemon out there. But overall, I think Rocky Helmet's a very great item. I don't think it's just about the most used item there, but I do still think it's a very good item overall. All right, our last two items. Double check, double check, double check. Oh no, I missed one. I missed one. I knew I missed one. Room service. This one kind of just exists. Like, it's very good, and I want to rank it higher, but I've not seen much of room service. I used it all except for Noah and his Iron Valiant. But other than that, I haven't really seen any shine for this thing. I don't think it's good enough to put it in like the B tier category essentially. All right, citrus berry. Citrus berry, believe it or not, has been one of those kind of like really common items you see a lot of people use nowadays, and I don't think it's a bad item. I think it's really good. You get a really good percentage of recovery off of that, which is really nice, and you kind of see a decent amount of times now with the good old belly drum sweepers, which you may get familiar with. But overall, I don't think it's a terrible item. It's nothing great, but it's pretty all right. And the last item we're gonna rank here is the throat spray item, and again, another all right no Pokemon, all right item. I don't think it's tapping broken, crazy, or anything like that. But if you hit that at the right moment, the instant setup with a follow killed, and then just having that +1 the rest of the matchup until you switch out is really really good. So, yeah, I think that does it, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. So, in the Just Bad, you kind of see basically banned items and items that are just kind of irrelevant. The Exist, kind of those really, like, really lame items that no one really uses, if not, are kind of just, like, very, very, very niche ones. The All Right tier, which are some of the best items. I would say anything from All Right and up is basically what you need to use in Draft League and you'll succeed. I don't think there's anything too crazily bad or too overpowering or anything that's really great. Top tier, we have some very good standout classics, very good items out there. And then we have the best of the best must use the resist berries for all the super effective moves on Pokemon, the choice items, leftovers, and weakness policy. That is going to be our first tier list video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And hopefully, you guys can give me some more ideas for some tier list stuff. Like, I want to try to find some tier lists regarding the Indigo Disc, maybe some other Pokemon, and maybe some other tier lists that we'll do about some other stuff, like maybe Zelda, Resident Evil, some other stuff about video game franchises that I like. So, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to become a member of the Thrill Crew. But with that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Till next time, guys. Bye.